Waiting for this. There we go. Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Kane, and I'm the Chief Strategy and Operating Officer for BioOne. And I'm delighted to be here today to talk, as Angela said, to provide a practical case study for the type of nonprofit platform alternative that she touched upon. So BioOne was founded in 1999 by 5 organizations interested in a sustainable future for scientific society publishing. Collaboration from the very beginning was in our DNA. BioOne Complete is our flagship product, and it accounts for nearly all of our $12 million of gross revenue. It too is a collaboration, home to over 200 titles from over 150 different societies and museums and independent presses. We operate on a cost recovery business model and return all revenue following operational costs and reserve needs back to those participating publishers. This is about 68% of our gross revenue every year and is almost $45 million since our inception. And this has been achieved all while keeping collection costs to subscribing libraries at a sustainable rate, 90% less than the commercial average in biology. So given this financial model, it's obviously very important that net revenue be kept stable, not just for our own financial sustainability, but of course for the health of our stakeholders, especially our publishing societies, many of whom are small societies based outside of North America. We've had great success, but like any mature product in a constrained market, revenue growth has been modest. So in order to change the bottom line more materially, we had to look at our costs. And we're a very lean operation. We have only 5 full-time staff, and we outsource all other functions. And so if we were looking for places to cut, there's really not many. But technology represented our largest cost center, with annual platform fees accounting for our single largest expense. So these fees, just to license the APE platform, which we did through an intermediary relationship with Allen Press, who was a BioOne founder, these were rising each year. And this was fine for the time being, but the concern was, what if this continued 5-7 years in the future? Where would that leave us? So while being with a leading commercial vendor like APE meant that we had excellent technology, we had been on the same installation for 10 years, and a refresh would mean a costly internal migration. This, of course, posed concerns for changes we wanted to make in the short term, but especially changes we wanted to make in the long term. We felt like we were in a poor position to think about new product development and, of course, eventual pivots to new business models or diversifications. So lastly, we were certainly feeling the service effects, both of our intermediated relationship, but as Angela mentioned, being a relatively small fish in a growing portfolio pond. So it's something that we as publishers talk about a lot, usually at meetings like this or more than often out at the bar. Why aren't there better options? Whether it's for platform or peer review or conversion or anything it seems that has to do with technology. There are highly sophisticated vendors, there are cheap options, and there are those that are known for their excellent customer service. But what if you want all 3? Are you just out of luck in the current marketplace? So I refused to accept that this was the case. I'm a little bit stubborn like that. And I didn't want to settle. If we didn't like the options that were available to us, we would just have to find new options. And I think what we realized early on was that we really didn't need a vendor. What we needed was a partner. So I met Patrick Franzen in 2014 when he was a rep for Lumina Datamatics, which is a tech services company. And he tried to sell me on conversion services, but we were happy with our current provider at that time. I did, however, say to them in that very first meeting, and this is true, and we've joked about it since, I said, well, if you ever have a platform, let me know. And we became friends, and we stayed in touch, and the following year, Pat joined SPIE. And in 2016, at UKSG in Bournemouth, he said he might have something for me. So SPIE is a large international society of optics and photonics based in Bellingham, Washington, north of Seattle in the United States. They have a successful publication programs of ebooks, journals, and proceedings. They have a large, talented in-house IT staff, and most interesting to us, a new proprietary platform that was launched after they went through their own migration from Silverchair. I like to say that SPIE is the largest scientific society that you may have not heard of. So BioOne obviously brought money to the table and the ability for SPIE to help spread their development costs, but also brought experience in the academic market and community connections, since SPIE's customer base was mainly from the corporate side. I think, moreover, one of the problems with having your own platform is that it can become an echo chamber. Having a partner meant sharing the responsibility for identifying future tools and services and the need to improve what would ultimately become a shared platform over time. But like anything unique or innovative, this was, of course, uncharted territory, and there were serious risks. We were talking about migrating from an industry-leading platform to being the very first publisher on a platform that had just been deployed and had been deployed for their own publications program. So we were obviously worried about the reactions of our communities, both publishers and libraries alike, especially if things didn't turn out as advertised. And of course, for SPIE, there were risks as well. Were they deviating from their own mission and their own publications? And by taking on even one partner, they were essentially becoming a service provider, and was that something that they wanted to do? So I would say on both sides, we certainly, leadership really took all of this into consideration and weighed the impacts very carefully. And we had a lot of frank, good faith discussions, kind of in lieu of negotiations, really about whether this made sense for both organizations. But ultimately, the benefits for both BioOne and SPIE far outweighed the risks, and an agreement was signed in August 2017. And the next 16 months included an enormous amount of work, and as you can see from these pictures, a fair amount of fun. And I could give an entire other presentation on our development and migration process, but in the interest of time, suffice to say we made it, and I think we both learned an extraordinary amount in the process. And then, on January 1st, just 2 weeks ago, we launched on time. So what have we learned, and what are the takeaways if you're considering such a partnership? Well, first, if you don't like the options available to you, create your own. I think when we settle for the usual and the known, we not only hold back our organizations, but we hold back the industry's progress forward. Scholarly communications is a small world, and people move around jobs and organizations a lot. Like my own experience with Pat, a casual meeting may turn out to be pivotal down the road. So stay open and listen, and that horrible, dirty word, network. We certainly had all the faith in the world in our new partners, but they were unproven, and there were obviously serious risks to our business. So part of our mitigation strategy was an ironclad contract and service level agreement that probably never would have been signed by a commercial vendor, but was really understood to be necessary in a case like this. And it sounds obvious, but it's really the most important thing. Keep your stakeholders updated continuously so there are no surprises. Obviously, this is just good practice no matter what, but I think especially if you're doing something a little bit outside of the box, it's even more important. And it's really important for your stakeholders to understand why you're making this move, how it supports your mission, and how it's going to benefit them directly, both in the short and long term. And if you do this, you're going to have more goodwill and latitude from them if problems do crop up, which they will, because no transition is ever seamless. But this is what really separates true collaborators and partners with more traditional vendors, in my opinion, service ethic. All the way through the process, we really felt like our success was just as important to SPIE as it was to us. And that's certainly a difficult quality to find in today's marketplace. So in closing, the organizing theme of this conference asks, platforms or pipelines, where is the value in scholarly communications? But for me, the answer is both or neither, because the real value, and I think our path forward as publishers in this very uncertain future, is not in siloing ourselves off, but in collaborating with one another. Thank you.